The bodies of drowned migrants are found washed up on a Libyan beach. A countdown of the continent's top music hits. And the first movie filmed entirely on Snapchat gets a full-length release. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Now, despite a drop in terrorist attacks overall in the year 2015, extremist groups have become even better at decentralizing and diffusing. In its annual report on global terrorism, the U.S. State Department says Islamic State remains the greatest threat, managing to spread its tentacles into regions beyond the Middle East. A VOA State Department correspondent, Pam Dawkins, has the story.
Islamic State's capacity to control territory in Iraq and Syria eroded during the latter half of last year, but the group managed to wage terror campaigns elsewhere in Europe, Africa, and South Asia. Although a U.S.-led coalition had success in keeping groups like Islamic State off balance in some regions, extremist groups managed to recruit new members elsewhere, according to the State Department in its annual report.
Our response really needs to be expanded into a better understanding of the drivers of radicalization, what it is that is compelling young people to be attracted by and then to join up with these terrorist organizations.
The State Department said Boko Haram killed thousands of people last year and displaced hundreds of thousands in the Lake Chad Basin region. Al-Shabaab waged deadly attacks in Somalia in a bid to reverse progress made by the government. And while al-Qaeda's central leadership weakened, it inspired a network of affiliate groups in the Middle East, Africa, and the Indian subcontinent.
What we therefore hope from the report is to get a better understanding of what's going on at the localized level so that we can tailor our own approach in our own efforts in partnership with many of those countries.
It's an approach that will need to go well beyond the military option to be successful, say analysts.
You cannot defeat a terrorist threat simply by killing the terrorists. Unless you deal with the underlying political, economic, and social grievances that give rise to the terrorist phenomenon, and in the case of the Middle East, unless you shut down the civil wars that are generating these new crops of terrorist groups, you are never going to get rid of the scourge of terrorism.
And while the U.S. report names nearly 60 designated foreign terrorist groups, one stands out, says analyst Alex Ward, who spoke via Skype.
ISIS is it for the United States, and ISIS is the strategic threat. Some people could disagree with that, but essentially, when it comes to terrorism for the United States, it's ISIS.
When it comes to efforts to fight groups like ISIS, the State Department says the U.S. continues to work with partners to increase border security and eliminate security vulnerabilities. Pam Dawkins, VOA News, the State Department.
Well, in Europe, hundreds of migrants were rescued from a sinking ship off the island of Crete in the southern Mediterranean on Friday. The Greek Coast Guard said they also recovered 4 bodies. Greek authorities said 340 people were rescued in a location some 75 nautical miles off southern Crete, but they could not speculate how many more might have perished. Now, the death toll in the southern Mediterranean has mounted in recent weeks as migrants attempted dangerous crossing by sea from North Africa to Europe. More than 2,500 people have died so far this year. The bodies of at least 85 migrants who drowned trying to cross the Mediterranean were found washed up on beaches in western Libya near the city of Zuwara on Thursday. A Red Crescent official said most of the migrants appeared to be from sub-Saharan Africa. Now, the bodies of 2 children were among those recovered. For the latest on the migrants' tragic ending, reporter Murad Tayyib joins me live via Skype from Tripoli in Libya. Murad, welcome. Now,
Hi.
Give us some update on the recovery of these bodies that are washing up on the Libyan shores.
So far, official sources are speaking of more than 100 bodies of drowned migrants which have washed ashore along the Libyan coast last night and tomorrow morning. The origins of the bodies have not been precisely, but we are talking of mostly Western African immigrants on the bodies.
Yes, and
of course, besides these 100 bodies, many have drowned in the Mediterranean, and many have been rescued during the 2 or 3 days, past 2 or 3 days.
Yes, and sorry for the bad audio there. And now, tell us a little bit about the process they have to go through in order even to get on those boats where they end up dying anyway.
Again, I couldn't hear you.
Yes? Can you hear me?
Can you say it again?
Can you give us a little description of the process that these migrants have to go through?
In fact, from some research we've conducted here in Libya, the regions that are exporting potential immigrants through Libyan coasts come mainly from the Horn of Africa, I mean Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, and Sudan. They arrive to Libya from Sudan, and they assemble in Qura, in southern Libya, before going to the north of Libya to the Mediterranean. They also come from the Sahel region, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and Cameroon. They often assemble in Sebha in Libya. They also come from some Middle Eastern countries like Syria, Palestine, Egypt, Iraq, and Yemen, and also from the Maghreb region, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. And they cross to Libya easily from the Tunisian-Libyan borders. Most these potential immigrants, mainly from the Horn of Africa, the Sahel, and the Middle East, most of them remain in Libya, hiding in Libya in some assembly camps, hiding during months, and in some cases they were hiding during a year or more before finding the opportunity to sail to Europe through the Mediterranean.
Well,
and
indeed.
In fact, it's a big business, yeah.
Yeah, a big business for real crooked people, and so sad for those migrants. Thank you very much, Amorad, for your reporting there. Well, that is Morad Tayeb reporting live via Skype from Tripoli. Now, since 1975, more than 3 million refugees have resettled in the United States. In America's refugee resettlement program is growing as more people fight violence, or rather flee violence, unrest and war in the Middle East. One of its most important components is self-sufficiency. VOA's Ken Faraba reports on how one Chicago company provides a part of the American dream to refugees, one dessert at a time.
The late Eli Shulman had a mantra.
My dad would always say, charity will never bust you.
It's how Shulman ran his restaurants and eventually his company, Eli's Cheesecake, which have become a popular dessert to the stars.
One of those was Frank and Barbara Sinatra, and I proudly wear the watch, the Cartier watch that the Sinatra sent my dad in 1987.
While many of Shulman's products are found on restaurant menus and in grocery store freezers around the country, few who enjoy them realize a secret to his company's success is not just how they are made by hand, it's whose hand has a hand in each dessert's creation.
People say, oh, you're such a good company because you hire refugees. No, we're a smart company.
Refugees represent about 15% of Eli's workforce of roughly 220 employees. Among them is Elias Kasanga, who arrived at the bakery after fleeing unrest in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1990.
I was a student at the University of Lubumbashi, and Mobutu and his regime came and massacred the students, and I had no choice but to flee.
A job at Eli's was all Kasanga had, starting a new life in the U.S.
I had no degree. I had no experience. Basically, I had nothing. I had no excuse at all for somebody or a company like Eli Cheesecake took a chance on me and hired me.
Kasanga is now a purchasing manager at Eli's and serves on the board of directors of Refugee One, a nonprofit group helping refugees start new lives in the U.S. Over the last 25 years, hundreds of refugees found employment at Eli's Cheesecake, which earned the company recognition by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, earlier this year. Schulman says the floor of his bakery in some ways represents the United Nations.
You sort of see different waves. If it was, Bosnia, or then if it was from the Congo, or it was, from Iraq.
Schulman is prepared for the next wave from Syria, should they desire and qualify for work at his bakery. President Barack Obama plans to resettle about 10,000 Syrian refugees in the U.S. by October, and more in 2017. Hundreds are expected to come to Chicago, in much the same way as Eli Schulman's family did more than 100 years ago.
His parents and his sister and brother came from Eastern Europe, Russia, Poland, and they came as refugees to the United States in 1907.
Which is why Mark Schulman says working with refugees is about more than just charity. It's in his DNA. Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Chicago.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, along with top European and Arab diplomats meeting in Paris Friday, are hoping to find enough common ground to revive stalled Israeli-Palestinian peace talks. The diplomats arrived for talks early Friday for the French-led effort to revive the Middle East peace process despite skepticism from Israel. In his opening remarks, French President François Hollande called on Israelis and Palestinians to make the courageous choice of peace as he opened the peace conference Friday.
It was important to be together for this initiative. This initiative has only one purpose: the peace in the Middle East. This initiative is important. Everybody feels it. It's becoming necessary. It must be a chance for the region, if of course the work starting today is done seriously and with determination. And that is what the French Foreign Minister Jean-Marc wanted.
Hollande went on to say that international powers should play a key role in facilitating the peace process, but ultimately it would be up to the two sides to work out their differences. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, a random sampling of Jerusalem residents found at best guarded optimism.
I don't know if something will come out. There definitely any summit with when foreign ministers of so many countries in Europe are gathering together, they have to come with some conclusions. But if something will materialize, I am very skeptical.
I'm not hopeful, and I don't think much will come out. Each side is very stubborn in their positions, and they won't budge.
Well, Washington's response to the French effort has been tepid, with Secretary of State Kerry agreeing to attend simply to listen to ideas proposed by France and others. Still, senior U.S. officials stressed the sense of urgency of working to advance the goal of a negotiated two-state solution. Now, despite the fact that Israeli and Palestinian representatives are not even attending the French brokered resumption of talks aimed at ending the conflict, there is a glimmer of hope on the horizon with the swearing-in Monday of the ultra-nationalist Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman, who said he supports a two-state solution. Well, the United States Treasury said on Thursday it has imposed sanctions on two pro-government Burundian officials and a member of an armed opposition group for engaging in actions or policies that threaten the peace, security, or stability of the African country. Mario Singenda Banca, a military commander, is alleged to be involved in purification operations against those opposed to the president's third-term bid. Also named is Ignace Sibomana, who has been involved in operations to target those opposed to Nkurunziza. The other is Edouard Nshimirimana, a former senior army officer who leads the Force République du Burundi rebel group Frodebu. More than 440 people have been killed in Burundi since April 2015, when President Nkurunziza announced he was standing for a third term. Now, we want to know what you think about issues that affect your daily life. So we ask you a question, and we profile some of your answers. This time we asked, how has the media impacted the democratization of Africa? Well, Sibusizo Shabalala from Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, believes that the owners of the media outlets often determine their role. He says state-owned media outlets are for incumbent regimes' propaganda. Well, and continues by pointing out that what are considered independent media outlets are for the opposition and Western regime change agendas. Well, rarely, concludes Sibusizo, will you find media outlets that really cater to the masses. Our next Facebook follower provides a very different perspective on the role of the media in the democratization process in Africa. Well, Martin Nyalusi from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, expresses a different point of view. He says the media plays an important role in democratization in Africa, because he concludes it reaches many places, especially in rural areas. Well, thank you very much for sharing your opinions with us. Well, next week we are going to continue highlighting your thoughts on the same issue. So let us know, how has the media impacted the democratization of Africa? Go to Facebook. The address is Africa54, and tell me what you think, or send me a tweet at VOA Vince Makori. Well, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, counting down Africa's top hits. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
Peat moss in a flower pot mixed with worms makes for a delicious treat at this unusual eatery. When customers order our chocolate dessert, it might not look appetizing at first, but after tasting it, they're happy, and many come back for more. Jeff Effentry is the general manager of Hyde, a high-end restaurant in Indonesia known for molecular gastronomy, a kitchen-turned-science lab to make your meal. Another hit is Namaz, one of the first molecular restaurants in the country. A 17-course meal might include the use of liquid nitrogen and rotary evaporators to create unique tastes and textures. But be prepared to fork over a few $100s for the experience. Food expert Bara Patarajoyan thinks this pricey food trend won't last, because he says of its highly segmented market and high production costs. Still, Indonesia's food and beverage industry is on pace for strong growth this year, and for now at least, molecular is in. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
I wanted to present music and a side of American culture that is most important to me, that is a part of who I am. They're going to get some incredible performances. That's one of the things I love, bringing these artists in so you can get to see them do what they do. It's soul music, and that's what music is. It's that which comes from the soul.
Welcome back. It's Music Makers Friday, and today a countdown of Africa 54's top 5 videos by African artists. For this exotic musical journey, here is Sanusi Diallo. Well, we kind of went a little faster there. Let's take a short break now, and we'll come back. Then we'll look at the first movie filmed on Snapchat ready for viewing. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines.
In Gambia, suppression of free speech ahead of polls expected to secure a fifth term for President Yahya Jammeh leaves citizens fearful. On a 4-day East African tour, Turkish president speaks about supporting Kenya in the fight against terrorism and opens a new embassy in Somalia. In Nigeria, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo begins a long-delayed program to clean oil spills in the Niger Delta. We stay in Nigeria, where local government declares a state of emergency as moths destroy Nigeria's tomato crop.
That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Music is an essential part of who I am, who my family is, and where I come from. Our show that is jazz-focused is called Beyond Category, and we take a very broad concept of what jazz is, but we look about bringing in the greatest jazz artists working to talk about their music and to hear them play.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending.
I have agreed to let Taylor take over my Snapchat.
Hi, I'm Taylor.
Well, followers of social media star Andrea Russell, who boasts 2.5 million subscribers to her YouTube channel, got an interesting surprise last month when they watched her on Snapchat going on a camping trip that eventually turned into a horror-filled nightmare. The hundreds of 10-second postings were a blend of real life and fiction in what its producers claim was the first feature-length film to be produced for and published on the popular social media site. Entitled Sick House, the film was shot in real time on iPhones over a period of 5 days. It was then released through Russell's actual Snapchat account at and Weasel. The complete Sick House movie is now available on online service Vimeo. Well, next up, pregnant women in South Korea will no longer need to ask for a seat on public transportation. Now, the city of Busan is trying out the Pink Light campaign, which sets off a flashing pink light when an expectant mother boards a bus or a subway train. Well, the mom-to-be approaches, a wireless beacon hung on her bag sends signals to the sensor attached to the seat reserved for pregnant women. The sensor then starts blinking. The passenger who's sitting in front of the expectant mother soon notices and gets up, offering the seat. Intended to help boost the country's low birth rate, the city of Busan launched the campaign using the Internet of Things technology in early April. And in other baby news, speed is of the essence as these Formula One mechanics change a tire in 2 seconds flat. Absolute precision and attention to detail are also vital to ensure safety, and it's these combined skills that doctors and nurses from University Hospital of Wales in Cardiff are hoping will help them save the lives of critically ill babies. The training program is still ongoing, but changes have already been made at the hospital. And needed equipment has been removed from the emergency trolley, and the neonatal team now has a dedicated work area in maternity operating theatres. There are also plans to start filming resuscitation attempts using on-body cameras so that staff can learn from any mistakes. And that is what is trending today. Well, welcome back. It's Music Makers Friday, as we mentioned earlier, and today a countdown of Africa 54's 5 videos by African artists. And for this exotic music journey, here's Sanusi Diallo.
Welcome to VOA's African Hit. I'm Sanusi Diallo. I'm your host today. Sit back and relax as we're about to introduce you the number 5 music video of the week. Our number 5 today, he's poised to be one of the most sought after artists in the music industry. He's King Kanja with Kati. Woo!
And even you think she's done, she's only just begun.
number 4 today is an Afro soul singer from Cameroon, Myra Matmot, with On Va Danser. Are you ready? On number 3, you can call him Mr. Lover, Storyteller. Here's Jupiter the Vibe with Fumilayo.
Sois fier de toi, baby, car rien ne t'impressionne. Dis champagne, si tu veux, tu peux gérer ça. Aïe, 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 aïe. Indépendante, aucun garçon n'a de pouvoir sur toi. Si tu veux, je t'emmène chez ma maman. Si tu veux, oui, si tu veux, je t'emmène chez ma maman.
Introducing the number 2 music video, we're cruising back to the West Africa with the Nigerian dancehall singer, Burna Boy. Suck it.
Shaking them on my stars. Namotilo, Jo Walese, Namotilo, Jo Walese. Shaking kick bass, okay. Shaking them on my stars. Shaking kick bass, okay. Shaking them on my stars. Oh, no, 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 no.
Introducing numero 1, number 1 music video of the week. He's a French rapper of Malian descent, Mokebe, with J'ai trop dansé.
J'ai trop dansé, hey, j'ai trop dansé, hey, j'ai trop dansé, hey, je suis fatigué, j'ai mal au dos, j'ai mal au dos, j'ai mal au dos, j'ai mal au dos, j'ai trop dansé, hey, j'ai trop dansé, hey, j'ai trop dansé, hey, je suis fatigué, j'ai mal au dos, j'ai mal au dos, j'ai mal au dos, j'ai mal au dos. Allô docteur, j'ai mal au dos, j'ai trop dansé, de minuit jusqu'à l'aube, j'ai dépensé tous mes lots, plus d'essence dans la groupe, y'a la police qui rôde, je suis dans le futur, j'ai mon bord, le DJ nous a plié, toute la soirée, sur la piste j'ai trop donné, je suis fatigué, sapé comme jamais, mon parfum dure 24 heures, je mange comme jamais, casal sur le nez, je suis prêt à snapper.
And once again, that's all for today. We want to thank you for watching. And don't forget to check our social media pages at VOA's African Hit. The African Musical Countdown, it's on VOA's African Hit. Once again, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. You know I got this, man. You see how I start putting my moves on it, man? Let me, come on. Yeah, man, go.
Okay, that's it. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a good night.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words.
Does this word mean something good has happened?
Unleashed. The president is sending Secretary of State John Kerry to the Middle East to help build a coalition to defeat the militants who have unleashed a wave of violence that has included attacks on Iraq's Christians and other minority communities, and recently the videotaped killing of American journalist James Foley.
Unleashed means to let something very powerful happen quickly.
It is like taking a leash off a dog and letting it attack someone. In our story, the militants unleashed or set off a wave of violence.
Usually, unleashed does not mean something good.
So, the next time you hear the word unleashed, you will know what this news word means.